Good evening.
We're doing peace.
Jenny, you get your hair cut?
I did.
Okay. Looks nice.
Thank you. How are you?
Good.
Had your children come or?
They were for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
They were on. Yeah.
It's my breath.
Children and the 3 grandkids.
That is so nice. That was it, Lord.
It was wonderful.
Amanda has left Conway High School.
She's like me.
I said Amanda Butler.
Okay.
No, I was putting down at 4:59, trying to beat the people out of the parking lot.
I didn't have this on there.
No idea.
You did that?
I had print hand.
Well, she updated it, and so this,
She probably had
this
basketball
wasn't on
practice.
there, so.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah, she had, because I told her from our last meeting, you said we were
I
going to
just read
focus
that
on.
off.
Mhm.
Yeah, we good.
Yeah, I don't
Extra
have
copy back here.
I don't have the city's logo on the top.
There's no problem.
Sure, we could get it if you want.
And some may not know, and I'm sure she's okay with me sharing, Deborah Butler lost her mom a few weeks ago, and she shared that she's in the hospital now, so if we can keep her and her family in prayer.
That's not Amanda's mom.
Amanda's step.
Just so everybody's aware that CAB meeting is running long, so this meeting will be recorded and uploaded to YouTube after it's over.
Okay, thank you.
I would see if do you know if Coker, if she was part of that meeting? Is it the girl we just nominated to be on the committee?
Probably. See if there's an empty seat.
Coker, Hall. I think we nominated her, what, 2-3 meetings ago?
Maybe not, because there's only 4 members present.
Okay. I don't think she's been contacted, that's the only reason I asked.
No, she's not here.
That's Alicia. So who would get in touch with her? Because I said something to her about when was her first meeting, and she didn't even know she was on the committee.
Yeah, I think a letter has to go out.
Okay.
Oh, look at that. Man, that's good.
Do you know if Adam or Mary
That's my friend.
decided that the recorder that they read that we could use for this?
Yeah, it's right here.
Oh, they do have one?
Once y'all are ready to start, I'll start.
Oh, you're gonna use that one as recording. But I was talking about one that I could record as the secretary to take minutes, and I could take it with me. They said that the budget would allow for a recorder. I went on YouTube last time, but I'm of the belief to have some type of other backup, and just in case.
I don't know if they want you to physically take her, or if we're just gonna send the file after, but I'll find out.
Just send a file to me?
Yeah.
Okay, so you need my email address, or you're gonna do it
Let me-
Google Drive or in that shared folder?
It would go into shared folder, really. We do
Okay,
that, but I'll find out.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Man, did you have a good day? Did you have a good day?
It's been a busy day, but I won't complain.
I had yesterday off and 2-hour delay.
Yeah, but then that was crunch mode because they have state testing.
Oh, y'all do?
Yeah.
Wow, and they did, oh, wow.
What did you
With the
teach?
2 hours. Math.
Good for you.
Madam Chair, we do have a quorum present.
We do.
We'd like to present.
Awesome. Well, I officially call this meeting to order. Concerning our previous minutes from December 6th, do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
So
The second.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that the minutes be approved from the December 6th meeting. All those in favor, can I see a signal of showing your hand?
No.
It's unanimously approved. Moving on to number 3.
Well, we do usually start with a prayer. We didn't put that on there. I don't mind giving a prayer.
Let's keep it rolling.
Okay.
Let's keep it rolling. Item number 3 is public comments. Do we have any public comments? This time?
I don't think we've had that on our meeting before.
Can I get a motion to close public comments?
I move that we close the public comments.
Sorry.
Second has been properly motion and approval to close public comments. Can I, any questions, comments, concerns? Can I see a show of hands for all of those in favor? Unanimously decided. Let's move to item number 4, recap from the chairperson. Unfortunately, I was not here at the last meeting, but I would like to see if someone would like to recap. I am not prepared to recap because I was not here at the last meeting.
Well, kudos, first of all, to whoever prepared the minutes,
Ms. Janet?
Well, thank
because
you.
they did a beautiful,
Thank you.
beautiful job.
So I can do a very quick recap.
Okay.
I mean, we started looking at SWOT analysis. We decided to focus on just the Whittemore Elementary property at this time, just given the time that we have, and that we will, and the deadline of hopefully getting something for the budget retreat by February, and then we will then look at the possible addition of a Whittemore Park property separately and at a later time. And then the decision was that we would come to this meeting with our prioritization of the items that had been listed on the SWOT analysis chart, so that we can begin to move forward and start making come to some consensus and some conclusions about what we'd like to see on the property.
Okay.
Is that a fair recap?
Other than we came to the conclusion that this committee is going to be preparing the agenda and the meeting dates and all going forward from there. And then we also elected the secretary from this committee, which she done a wonderful job in getting that out the first time. So we thank her.
You're welcome, everyone. You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you for that recap. Any questions about the recap? About our previous meeting? All right, so let's move to item number 5 with the SWOT analysis.
I have a question. John, we hadn't heard from the school board yet, have we, about any decisions on the middle school, even though I know we're just doing one. Still no? Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, so concerning the SWOT analysis, and the SWOT analysis is going to be on the existing property.
John, do we have the board still
That's what I was.
available to us? I mean, I have the photos that I took of it.
It's in the minutes, what we did.
And I did not print out the
That,
minutes.
okay.
Yeah, we do have. Do you want?
Do you have an extra copy?
I don't have an extra copy. But you're welcome to use it as your cherry.
All right. So estimated 10 minutes. So are we we're in discussion of the SWOT analysis?
Our homework assignment was for us to individually number in some type of order, at least the top 4 or 5 that we wanted to possibly include as part of the preliminary proposal by the budget retreat.
Okay.
You see, there's a whole a list of under the opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So we were supposed to try to individually list our top 4 or 5.
Okay.
And if I could just interject this, because it's an unknown, and what I was trying to do is we looked at strengths and weaknesses to look at what the unknowns were. And we asked the city manager about the remediation of the site, the contamination of the site, and the cost of remediation, because that's certainly gonna fall into whatever we can be able to do. And basically his comment was, it's gonna cost what it's gonna cost. And that could be a pretty big range. It could be $50,000, it could be $250,000. And I was wondering if maybe this committee could make an inquiry of the city administrations, if they could give us a little better number of what remediation would cost on that property.
I guess my question to you and to the board here would be, I understand and I agree that, we don't know what it would cost, but that is not a hindrance in any way to what our decision may be for his recommendation, because no matter what you do, that's still gonna be there, right?
That's right, but if it's $250,000 as opposed to $50,000, that's gonna make a huge impact on what we can accomplish.
Yeah, I do, and I agree, I'm not disagreeing with you, but regardless of whether or not we do anything, or whether or not we recommend anything, that's a variable that's not gonna change.
That's fine.
And information we don't have, they didn't give us
That-
a budget
you're-
to work with.
You're exactly right.
So we're kind
I'm just trying to
of, you have a good point,
to
Mr. Lovett.
minimize the unknowns,
It's an excellent
where they
point,
come in, we get whacked on the back of the head by surprise. You go to
because what we
card-
propose is over whatever their prospective budget is,
Good.
but that's information we don't have, and you make a valid point. But unfortunately, that information has not been provided to us, and that is something that has come up a number of times at some of our previous meetings. You know, what do we have to work with, and that has not been provided to us.
Okay, all right, well, we'll move on.
We're
Thank you.
limited, yeah, we're limited, we're kind of just,
Thanks.
And then I have my question of us identifying the top 4 of the opportunities. I think that was the homework assignment, correct? I just have some questions concerning when it has ball fields, what specific ball fields are we saying? Are we saying like baseball fields? Are we saying football?
that was in reference to what the rec center had proposed, that using some of that, that acreage for extended a number of ball fields that,
Okay.
from their needs.
So multi-use fields. which would be like
Multi-use.
okay, that's what I wanted to know. Oh, let me not write on this. This is yours.
You can write on it, I can make another copy.
Okay.
You're free to, yeah.
Or John, is there a way we can make a copy of this here?
I can run downstairs and make a copy.
Do you mind?
Yeah, get it. Do we all get one then? Does that have one?
Yes, 5 pages, you can probably.
Or just that,
Just
just
that one
that
page.
That one
page.
page, that one
Yeah.
page.
Just one,
Okay.
Because I just wanted to
maybe
specify.
5.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we specify when we have our top 4 that all of us can specifically say, if we're saying ball fields, let's say multi-use fields. So then that for the rec, that means that can be your football field, your soccer field. And not just, because, I don't want it to be, oh, let's try to get a baseball field, which costs more space versus a football field, and you could put 2 football fields versus a baseball field, so.
I think that's how they presented it, it would be multi-use.
Multi-use, yeah, and more than likely it'll be a football field and a soccer field, more than likely. So I just wanted to clarify that, that's one thing that I saw. Kind of waiting. And I'm assuming we could do potential tally concerning voting on the opportunities, and we can kind of go the opportunities with the highest amount of votes, we'll kind of lean into those.
I think that's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
One more thing. And I was talking, Cheryl and I talk back and forth occasionally, and, you know, we're a little bit hamstrung because we don't know about the middle school.
Right.
And when Cheryl and I were talking, if we get the middle school, what we can essentially have there
You're awesome. Thank you.
is it would fulfill every need that the city staff had enunciated at the first meeting, and leave approximately 25 to 30,000 square feet of improved space for alternate uses. So, you know, if that comes apart, then we can fulfill all of the city's needs
Right.
and the two fields there.
And I think, and I didn't mean to interrupt, but I think that's why we have to do the two different plans. So we have to create a plan if we just have the Whittemore Elementary site,
Right.
and then we have to make a whole nother plan to include that site. So you're very much correct. There's tons more opportunities where the city can do more if we had that Whittemore Park site. And then I know we're gonna be limited concerning what we do on the Whittemore Elementary site.
Okay. Now, with the Elmore Elementary site focusing on the 11 acres, what are our budgetary resources for that property?
We'll discuss that at our budget retreat, I'm assuming.
Okay.
I think that's part of that, that we'll discuss.
Yeah, well, I asked about that, I think, at our last meeting, and, cause my concern was us working towards an end, and what I gather, that the city is interested in making sure that this committee comes back with the primary of most, number one project for the elementary school, having it in place prior to them going on their retreat, budget retreat. So I think we saying a lot of things, and we going through this priority list, but at the end, the focus need to be now just on the elementary school property,
Right.
trying to get a project or a recommendation to them prior to them going on there, so that they can do whatever they have to do in preparation beyond what we may recommend to them.
And I wanted to make one more recommendation on the opportunities list. Can we combine that community center or park with the multi-generational outdoor
Yeah.
space playground?
Yeah, yeah.
Let's combine those two?
I mean, in fact, there's a couple of them that you could
When we put
combine together.
Post-it notes together, we combined them.
Okay. And what was another one that we
One
combined?
of the last one, preserve history.
Uh-huh.
That also could be included with that. The other would be the 300, 500 capacity, could be combined with that as well.
Well, I think that was the outdoor, so like the preserve
No, no.
history and the event space, is that what we're saying?
The event space, I think that had to do with if we had that multicultural building or event center, that looking for a capacity 300 to 500. So that would go along with if you were going to a building to house these other opportunities we talked about
If you
there.
don't mind backing up a little bit for me, please. So you're saying combine community center or park with multi-generational outdoor and preserve history. Is that what you're saying?
Well, they got a multiple the 34th one down.
Multi-generational.
Yeah.
So what does
So
it,
was
so what
it-
does that mean? I'm sorry.
And in essence of trying to get through that last meeting and us getting to the SWOT analysis, whatever ideas and thoughts that was thrown out there
Yeah.
is what was put on the board, and that's what's listed.
Okay.
We didn't go into the specifics other than just getting the ideas and thoughts up on the board.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, is that one you recommended about the multiple Generational?
The multi-generational pretty much was saying the same exact thing with the multi-generational outdoor, which
Yeah.
was to
Okay.
make sure that it was a space that all generations
For
across
seniors and
generations
youth.
would
Okay.
be able to
Yeah.
use.
Okay, so I'm just
Because
gonna.
a lot of these
mark that out.
opportunities are not for a specific
Right,
building or structure, but it's what can
right.
happen as a result.
As an
Okay.
opportunity to.
Yes,
And I think
Okay.
the preserve history, if we're putting it together to go with the multi-use, because I think we talked about whatever community center building is there, there's an opportunity within that building to preserve history.
yes.
So multi-use, multi-generational outdoor use, and preserve history is, we're saying, combined into one.
I would recommend that the community center or park and the multi-generational outdoor space be together, and then the multi-use, multi-generational, and preserve history is something different. Because one is the outdoor space and the other is the building.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you all this. I got an inquiry, I assume everybody else did, that was asking for specific uses. I guess what we'll do, because we're gonna focus on the 11 acres now, so I'll set that aside. But there was a conversation about Santee Cooper.
I think that's on the agenda.
Yeah, that's on the agenda.
Okay, all right, good, okay, all right.
Okay, yeah. So, can I also make can we also combine, I'm just asking if we can combine the performing arts and the amphitheater? Can we combine those two?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So we don't have a board that we have access to tonight?
I'd have to go down there and look for it. I could, but I'm not sure exactly where it is.
Okay.
You can want an extra piece of paper.
Here, right on the
Or we
back.
could, and we could use the Post-it notes to put it up on this.
Okay.
If we, you talk about when we get to prioritize it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right, because I just wanted to make sure that if there were some things that we can combine, let's combine.
Mhm.
And then, so when we kind of get a vote,
The top 4 or 5.
yeah. So I'm gonna just go down the list if that's okay, and then we can do it by a show of hands.
Okay.
And then we can just see the top 4 that I think everyone has agreed on, and then we can have a discussion.
Okay.
So the first thing on there was address unmet needs. Can I just see a show of hands of, this is just going our top 4, of anyone that believed addressing unmet needs is one of them.
I think we saw that some of these,
All of these are
all of
unmet
these,
needs.
that's
Okay.
one of the
So
opportunities.
I'm just gonna go ahead and mark
Yes,
that
right.
off.
Just strike that.
Mhm.
Let's strike that off. And then how about community center or park, which is in combination with the multi-generational outdoor
Mhm.
space playground?
That
Can
was
I
in
just
my
see a show of,
top.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4,
Which
5.
of you said yes, are you raising your hand?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
1,
yeah,
2, 3,
yeah,
4, 5, 6, I think. Okay. All right, the next one was, I believe, multi-use and preserve history. Okay,
How many?
4, I'm sorry.
I'm trying, yeah.
I'll say
I'm
that
all
out.
about preserving history. I guess the multi-use doesn't really matter to me. So if we're gonna lump them together, I'm in.
Okay,
Yeah. So that's 5.
yes, 5.
But don't,
And they kind of overlapping too now.
because there's some overlap, because
Yeah,
I
there
would
is.
think
Yeah.
that within the multi-generational, within the event space,
Yeah, that's,
within the multi-general outdoor space,
Is multi.
It can't-
all of those kind of,
right, and so that's a very valid point, because
Yeah.
within that community center,
Yeah.
there could be
Yeah.
I would think some type of preservation of history within the community center or park.
And I think that's the whole idea, was to make sure that was
Right, so
included.
that's going to be in there somewhere.
Right.
So I think even what you just said is kind of like the first thing that we're saying, a community center is a priority.
Right.
Because we've not yet even articulated that
Or
yes,
what
we
that
want
looks
a
like.
community,
Yeah.
that we want a community center on that property.
Yeah, so,
And also pointing out building versus outdoor space or a combination of.
yeah, yeah. So once we narrow, I feel like once we narrow down the top four, then we can dive into, okay, what will this look like?
Okay.
Is it indoor, is it outdoor?
Okay.
The next one on there was ball fields or multi-use fields. Okay.
How many?
3,
Thank you. I'm trying to write and not look up. Okay.
affordable housing workforce.
If I could speak to that, I do a lot of real estate development work. And Cheryl and I talked last week for a little bit of time, and if we are stuck with the R1 zoning, which would require 75-foot lots, that's not going to yield the density on 11 acres in terms of the multifamily housing goal that I thought that you were kind of targeting at the 120 range. And I did a pro forma looking at costs, and if we borrowed all the money, and basically the rental cost per unit would be about $1,800 a month. And that's just on debt service. And that's without a property manager.
Yeah.
And that's without a sinking fund for roofs, driveways,
Landscaping.
and the other things that are incidental to maintaining a property like that.
And I will say this though, and Beth, correct me if I'm wrong. If anything, I doubt this would be, this one thing would not be an R1. I think it would be a mixed use district if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So that within the mixed use district,
Yeah.
that there's different things, that.
It would have to be rezoned.
It'd be rezoned, and I don't think this entire property would be an R1 zone. So I don't want to say that 100%, because I'm just one member of council. But I think as a mixed use district, there's some things that can happen if that was an option. And I think some numbers might change if that is the direction that we decide to go in.
Well, let's assume that we go to a multi-use district. If that's the will, then we move it. But still, the numbers don't work. 120 units, figure 800 square feet a unit, $220 a square foot. And that's before site work, grading, architectural.
But at this point, aren't we being exploratory and seeing what the options are? If that's a
Yeah,
priority?
we are. I was just saying,
Right.
I was just saying that just kind of went tilt when I looked at the numbers, because if it's going to take $1,800 to meet the debt service, and we've got, so my thought to you is that's a stretch. We
And
can
they
all,
might, I'm sorry, go ahead.
we can tinker with it. You get architects and engineers to tinker with it. A lot of tinkering can be done. I just observe and share with you that may be a stretch.
And that's just it'd be a bridge we would have to cross once we get there.
So I didn't get the
I know.
count.
Yeah, let's redo the count for the affordable housing workforce. That's 2. And then we've combined performing arts, fine arts with the amphitheater. Can I see a show of hands for the performing arts, fine arts, and then the amphitheater, indoor, outdoor?
Is this separate from the multi-use?
It could be
It's
inclusive,
Okay,
yes.
so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah. The next one is event space, 300 to 500 capacity.
I mean,
Is that-
I'm in favor of that, but I think that's also inclusive of the first one we went on and the last one too. So this is just talking about the size of the, whatever it be, okay?
Well, and I guess my question is, because we can have a community center and an event space
You
on
can.
the same property.
Right.
Because to be honest with you, just as a caveat, I was thinking of Unity Park. They have an event center and then they have a
Yes.
separate center.
Yeah.
So it could technically be two separate.
It could.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. It could.
So,
So event space separate?
yeah, let's try to do the event space separate, because I don't want it to be one or nothing,
Mhm.
Okay.
because it could be both. So can I just see a show of hands again for the event space? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or, no,
5,
I'm on the fence with that one.
5, yeah.
5 is good.
okay.
Community garden. 1. But could we-
Too, but that,
That's
yeah,
part of the,
Could it also? Can we do that community garden with the
with the outdoor space.
with the
Mhm.
outdoor space?
Yeah.
Sure.
Because that could be included in that multi-generational outdoor space.
But it
Sure.
would require setting aside a specific
Mhm,
part of the land
mhm.
for that, which would
Right.
then not be included in playground. So just
Right.
as long as it's in the planning.
Yeah. So I
So do that.
do agree to combine that community garden with that, if that's okay. But we can do that.
Would- Okay.
The next one then would be the generate income for city.
But we didn't take account for community garden, multi-generational outdoor space and playground.
We could, because we combine
We
that
combine
with
it.
the community center
Right.
or park.
Oh, okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
So those
Thank
will be
you.
combined together. So the next one was the generate income for city.
So I was putting that with the event center,
Yeah.
and that would be the income generator.
Okay, yeah, and I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. So we'll combine event space with the generate income. And that already has
Oh, we
a
can
bonus.
also- yeah.
Would that change the count? Because we had 5 for event space, but would,
Okay,
No.
we can redo the count
Okay.
if that works. So we've combined the event space and then the generate income for city. Can I see a show of hands for those who
same thing?
would say 5?
Okay.
Then the next one was attract retaining locals. I'm not quite sure what all that entails.
They were just saying, what are the positives of developing the property, so that kind of goes with everything, it doesn't really need to.
Yeah, that could-
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming the same thing with keep people off of
Right.
41.
Right.
And the next one as well. Right?
Keep them locally here instead of going to the beach or venturing off to other places. They would have somewhere to go to.
Somewhere to go. Okay. And then I'm assuming the inclusion of community input. I'm assuming that was just.
Mhm.
Okay.
That was,
Another positive.
that
That's
one
another
along with the
opportunity.
foster unity,
Okay.
I think should go together.
Okay.
Just another
Gotcha.
positive
Gotcha.
outcome.
Okay. That we don't necessarily have to take account of. Okay. So the top 3 that I have is that community center or park, multi-generational outdoor space, playground, and community garden. That was one of them.
With
Um,
6.
With 6, and then the next one was multi-use.
Mhm.
That was combined with preserving history. The third one was the amphitheater.
Mhm.
That was combined with the performing arts, fine arts. And then the last one that I have is the event space, 300 to 500 capacity combined with the generate income for city.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so those are the top 4
Yeah.
that we can focus on moving forward.
Okay.
Any questions, comments, discussion on those top 4?
But part of the community center, I would think, would be a multi-ball field type deal, where kids could get out there and play soccer and all that kind of stuff.
I think, so the reason ball field is separate from that is there was this ball field was the specific request from the recreation director to have specific ball fields. And
'Cause they
the
got
other
all the
one,
space.
as playground and park space, I see those as being really different, because I
Yeah.
think a multi-use ball field is actually very restrictive in its use, who can use it and when and what it can be used for.
But I think that kids playing basketball or soccer or something like that you wouldn't want your kids playing on the jungle gym, all right there together, kicking a
Right, that's
soccer
why
ball.
she's saying it should be separate.
Yeah, so I'm saying that the community would need some kind of activity more than just jungle gyms and gardens and stuff. I mean, whether it was a track or something out there that people can walk that's outside like the 12th Avenue, there's got to be some kind of recreational type. That's 11 acres. I mean, that's a pretty big track.
Right. And I think that multi-generational outdoor space could
Is what-
also
yeah, that
play
came up with
into
those
that
examples.
ball
Of
field.
that.
And
What you're speaking
I'm
to.
looking at the bigger picture of that we do need additional space for kids to play. There's not a good,
And here, and I'm sure we'll dive into all four of these in depth. But here's a potential vision that could kind of, because I do believe, you know, our seniors need another park to walk around versus the one that's on 12th Avenue. And some of them don't want to go inside the rec and walk around the park, the track upstairs. So there could be a field and a track around the field for those to walk around, and then the accessibility for the neighborhood kids to go out there and play a game of football or soccer or whatever. And I think that the rec being involved with that could help orchestrate, one, funding wise, because that's a whole separate funding capacity. And then it can meet community and city needs. Not necessarily it has to be one or all. Not saying that this is only for the rec. The rec can only use this. That's not, I
I
don't
think
think
that's what was conveyed when we were discussing it at previous meetings, why we coined the word multi-generational. Because you're speaking to children and youth and all the way up to senior citizens.
Right.
Having a multi,
Right.
purpose use for each person's.
And I think we can
needs.
work with the rec to make that happen, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of a design issue as well.
Yeah.
When somebody starts looking at how the property is laid out and what all can go there, there may be some unique or new kind of activities that could go there.
That can make it, we can make that work.
And part two was to look at what is not in the city as far as what we talked about addressing unmet needs, as well as to complement what we already do have in place, such as the rec center and other ball fields and other spaces that the city may be able to acquire to expand on, where the rec center said that they have a desire to expand their use in their fields. So I think that's what we were discussing, was something that we don't already have, an unmet need, but would be complementary to what we already have in
Right,
place.
yeah, I got you. And that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. So I just want to, can I make this recommendation to the board that the four things that we have highlighted tonight from the SWOT analysis, that we go in depth with what each one of those will look like and will require in our next meeting? Because then we're kind of narrowing it down. So we've narrowed down the four things that we want on this property. Let's narrow it down even more to say specifically this is what we want.
Can you list those again, please?
Yes, it was the community center or park with the multi-generational outdoor space playground. It was the multi-use preserve history. It was the performing arts, fine arts, amphitheater. And then the last one was the event space, 300 to 500 capacity to generate income for city.
Madam Chairman, let me ask you this. Do we have any funds where we could hire an architect to come in and try to put together all of these ideas on one site to give us a better idea of how that could look? Because they would know about the square footage and the 500 feet, and the bathhouses and how it can be arranged. I mean, they're good at taking a scramble of ideas and coming up with a scheme.
Yeah, I will say we have wonderful city staff that would be able to, I think, could help in trying to lay it out for us. I think we can, if we could eventually get with you guys to figure out, after we get everything kind of nailed down see how it would look, just like a rough sketch of how it would look.
Yeah.
Is that possible, John?
Yes, I would say just, like you said, farther down the line, we can, something simple like figuring out how big a building you can fit after you put a soccer field and a track and a playground, where we could
Okay.
sketch out something simple like that for a design drawing. I would say that would be closer to when you're developing your final report.
Okay, that'll work. We can do that. That sounds good. So just, we'll just put that down as a future thing, is to get with the city staff to get a sketch of what it would look like.
And so would we just assign that to the city staff, or would some members of the committee sit with them and maybe bounce some ideas based on these priorities? How do you think that could work?
I know concerning council, they normally bring us they kind of come up with something and bring us some ideas for us to look at. We say yes, but let's maybe change this, and this, and then they go back and make some alterations and things like that. So if necessary, we can ask them for, hey, is there a possibility to get 3 examples of what it looked like, and have them possibly make 3 sketches. I think that's just up to the board and what we ask them to work with us on. Okay.
You need to vote on your recommendations or not? As far as those 4 items coming back next meeting?
If we can hold off until the end, because there might be another recommendation for the agenda for the next meeting, in case we want to add something, but we can make it into one whole motion versus individual. Because I know we have to agree on what's going to be on that consideration of agenda for next meeting. We can vote on it then. Down to item number 6, discuss new requests for use of properties. Yes.
I can explain that for you, if you want me to.
Okay.
We got 2 requests, one of them from SOS Care, and they wanted space at the middle school property, if the city attained it. The other one was from Santee Cooper, and they wanted to inquire about the 10 acres elementary school property for a solar panel farm.
Yeah.
Not knowing any details as to whether that was some kind of lease agreement or whether or not they were looking to actually purchase the property from the city. I don't know that, but those were kind of the 2 requests that came to the city that were forwarded on to us.
Okay.
Just briefly, I've done about 8 of them, 8 solar farms. Biggest one, 1,200 acres, and the bulk of them have been structured as leases by utilities or utility providers from the landowner in exchange for an income stream. And then, obviously, if it's owned by, then the question comes up is what's the tax on the lease? That's certainly going to be an issue. But the most significant issue is that these solar farms have a useful life of about 30 years. And that there is a big big pop in environmental cleanup when the end comes. So,
What is that environmental cleanup? What is
in other
left?
words, what happens with, is all those materials degenerate over time
Okay,
because of what it's made up. I mean, it pollutes the soil
gotcha.
and pollutes the property. So if the city doesn't want polluted property back, there's gonna have to be a covenant in the lease, which I'm accustomed to seeing, which requires the tenant to
Clean up.
to clean it back up.
So I'm wondering, because it sounded like they wanted the entire 10
Yes.
acres. And
Yes.
so, since our priorities have already been for the community
Right.
and
Yeah.
for children playing outdoors, that's incompatible
Right.
with a solar
Yeah.
farm.
Yeah.
And so I think we may have to
Yes.
Stress
And the other-
respectively say,
Yeah,
not on this
Right.
property.
right. And the other thing is the actual location of the property.
Right.
That is not conducive to that
In a residential area.
residential area. So I think that's a mute from this
That-
day
You
one.
think the neighborhood would find that unsightly?
I would.
Well, that's the
And
point.
it would affect their taxes, it would affect their
That's-
property
Yeah.
value, it would affect so much.
That's fair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
For so
That's
many
certainly
reasons.
fair.
Right, so I feel like that's not even on the table at this point.
No.
I would
The
agree.
biggest issue, I think that's, not maybe the biggest, but one of the issues is the SOS, which would be a great opportunity. But I believe we can talk about that at another time.
Yeah.
Once we have already completed this property, then we can move on to this property and the middle school.
Yes.
So we can table that for another date. All right, so item number 7 is board input and discussion. Is there any further discussion on what we have discussed tonight or future plans?
And I think the intent there was that out of the SWOT, that we would come up with some priorities and then have opportunity maybe to break them down further if time was permitted. But if time may not be permitted to go in that, then we can carry it over to the next meeting if that's desired with the task force.
And maybe homework could be, we jot down our own individual thoughts and ideas so that when we come back to the next meeting, we
Right.
can do like we did today, just kind of put it out there, discuss it, share, look at some commonalities, some differences, and narrow it down.
Right, I agree, because I think that was one of the things when we discuss in depth, then everyone can contribute to see how that looks
Yeah.
and what.
And I do believe that with assignment, the 4 priorities, that we need to begin to focus on exactly what we want.
Right,
I mean,
right,
if we want the event center, then let's focus on what the event center's gonna look like and bring that back to the next meeting.
right.
So we can say, hey, that's the direction we're going, that's not the direction we're going.
I wonder if it would be helpful if we talk just a little bit about what the process will look like.
Okay.
So when we come next
Yes.
meeting, and we have kind of ideas, how are we going to
Yes.
actually put those ideas together and be able to discuss them all?
I will say this, I feel like the 4 priorities can fit in the 10 acres. So we can do it as, our thought process can be, what would it look like with all 4? What would it look like with 3? What would it look like with 2? What would it look like with 1? If we want to go that route, or we can focus on, I honestly believe we can put all 4 of these in the 10 acres. I think so. So,
And if we do all 4 in the 10 acres, which I think we can do, does that mean we save the building, or do we tear the building down and build it all now?
I think that's something that we can discuss. I think that's a great question.
I would share.
I think the building's gonna have to come down.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to allude to. In previous discussions by the city, I think it was 2018-19 when they were really looking into what to do with the Whittemore Elementary School building as well as the annex. The idea was to tear down and rebuild, and they even had, it's in some of our documents that's in that drive. Yeah, in that folder, where they had an outline of a particular building and what that would look like, but that was under the idea that they were going to build a community center and what that community center would look like. It didn't speak to any of the other areas of the property. But I think that with us having this discussion and putting the community center as our number one, that we are in line with what the city had already suggested and proposed and was going to put into works initially.
Right.
So I think that that's a positive.
Let me ask one quick question, and I'm flashing back to the meeting just before Thanksgiving and the minutes there, and I reviewed those. And Cheryl and I talked about this briefly, but I know in that meeting, Cheryl, you made clear that your group continued to have an interest in acquiring the property.
Yes.
And my question is your group still interested in acquiring the property?
We still have our partners lined up. They are still on board. We're just waiting to see what kind of RFP would come from the city with regard to the development of the property. Primary focus, not primary, but one of the foci would be the affordable housing, which is a part of what the city says is one of their aims as well. So we thought that fit well with the city's plans. So yeah, we're still able.
All right, but here's my question.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a question that relates to conflict of interest. If you represent a group that has an interest in acquiring and developing the property, then I think you have to recuse yourself from voting as a committee member on what use is ultimately to be made, because you can't really vote for your project as a vote as opposed to a vote for the city's use.
So, when we were asked to serve, we were asked to serve as, the Whittemore Race Path Historical Society, with them knowing full well what our interests were. And we're simply representing those interests. As you can see from the vote that was just taken, that's not the priority, so I don't know.
And that's, in fairness, all of us shared what our interests were in regards to the organizations we represent. With me representing the Whittemore Alumni Association, our top priority was preserving the history and having some type of facility that would meet the community need, particularly being careful and cautious about what we decide on and how it would impact, rather in a negative or positive way, those residents who live in close vicinity. So we all had an opportunity to share. I believe Ms. Elaine Gore spoke to the senior citizens. The rest of us shared, and that was from our initial meeting. And I think we all can agree in looking at what our top four is, other than the affordable housing, a lot of what was shared is actually going to be
The interests that were represented around the
that
table.
represents the majority around the table.
All right, well then let me ask.
If that helps to kind of help. answer.
That's certainly helpful, and I certainly want all the input. But my concern is either the city's going to develop it or some third party is going to develop it.
Right.
And the request for proposals has been withdrawn.
Right.
So I guess the question is, do you anticipate your group or affiliates, as you may aggregate, making an offer to buy the property from the city, knowing that the city cannot give you the property?
So it seems at this point that that's moot in that a new RFP has not come down.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just want to say the reason why all of us are sitting at this table is because the city, we're trying to work with different members of the community to make a finalized product that will benefit not only the city of Conway, but also the community. So there is no, at this point, selling of the property. It's how can we develop this property to be most beneficial for the city as well as the community. So that's kind of off the table. Like there is no, if we do an RFP or something of that state, it will be for someone to possibly to design it, an architect to design it, to develop plans for the property that have already been suggested. But it wouldn't be to sell the property for someone else to develop it.
To a third party.
Right, that's not gonna be.
So it'll be developed under the auspices of the city's direction.
Yeah, that's why we're giving the city some suggestions.
That's fine, that's.
Yeah, we go to the budget retreat, we figure out if, what's cost effective and feasible for the city to do. We're taking these recommendations so that the city can create something, that is most beneficial to the city. We're taking these as recommendations and suggestions.
And could I add to that, we had the proposal, request from St. J. Cooper.
Right.
My understanding from just reading that they probably wanted the property to build the farm. Again, they didn't say that. So if you went down that road, then that would give our group an opportunity to come back and do the same thing. Ask for the property. We beyond that, I think.
Yeah.
And then again.
And I think the other point that needs to be stated clearly that, we can't represent an organization, but we're part of this community, and we're here to work with the city. Some of the things that we wanted, we know we're not going to get, but included in the top priorities represent things that we also want to have and be a part of.
And we all had an opportunity to vote.
Right.
And so Ms. Adamson didn't just vote for affordable housing, she also voted on some other things which lended itself to the majority, right?
But my whole point was, if Cheryl was gonna be voting to sell the property to her group.
Right, and that's not.
But that's not on the table.
That's not on the table.
That's not on the table.
That's fine, we're good to go.
Yeah,
Thank
we're not selling the property.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussions?
Oh, yeah. I brought some examples of cultural centers from around the state or close by that I wanted to share with you all. So take a look at these and see what we can glean as we flesh out our priorities. And again, with regard to process, I wanted to discuss that as well, because we really are pressed for time
Yeah.
to get something together by the end of February. So I wanted to suggest or ask if perhaps, if there were some people on our committee that had time to sit with staff as they do their explorations or come up with something that we would make ourselves available. But yeah, we really would like whatever it takes to ensure that we have something ready to go.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you all this. Ernest Finney was a giant in South Carolina. Ernest Finney also taught at the middle school.
He taught at Whittemore High School.
The high school.
That's right. Before he,
Went to law school.
and did his judicial center. And the job he did as Chief Justice, the job he did as a trial judge. He was a wonderful guy. He was a wonderful guy. And because of his Conway roots, might it be considered that what be named after him? And I ask that rhetorically, simply because of his impact in the state, and because he was here. I mean, he
Well,
was.
he's a legacy because his dad was the principal, Dr. Ernest Finney Sr.
Yeah.
Right.
And then he taught here. So yeah, they have very strong.
And I know they've still got the lot over at Atlantic Beach.
That's commendable, that's very commendable, that's,
I
again,
think we
another
can-
topic.
Yeah, and I think we can flush, I'm sorry, but I think we can flush that out next week when we actually go and think about, when we say community center, or park, what does that look like? And then I think all of us, once we bring all of our ideas together, and I think that would be one of the ideas, the suggestions of
Preserving history.
preserving history or what. So I think we can flush this out a little bit more.
So in terms of process, are we saying that we're gonna come back next week with
It's actually 2
specific?
weeks from now.
Right, 2 weeks, you're right, thank you. So specific ideas of what would be involved in a community center?
Yes.
What would it house? What would we want to see happen in it?
Yes.
And so those kind of spaces then be made available. And then it's after that meeting that we would then ask the city staff to start doing some design? Or can that happen prior to that? Given the short time that we have till end of February.
Well, let me ask, what would you all need from us before making a sketch?
What may be better than us doing a sketch, if you would like, we could provide you printed maps next time with tracing paper
Okay.
for you to kind of, you could even break out for a few minutes and do it, because we don't want to assume that your community center needs to take up 2 acres,
Okay.
that, you know, what kind of trail you want, that you want a quarter-mile trail or a half-mile trail. So if
That would
you
be
wanted us to do that, we could have that, and you could just kind of do your interpretations of.
Yes, let's do that.
But would it be helpful if someone contributed money to a landscape architect to come up with something to submit to the city, to work cooperatively with the city staff to come up with sketches or proposals?
I would not recommend the committee get into procuring anything, but if you know somebody who wanted to help you with your interpretive drawing and submit it, that as a member of the committee, or, you know, if you wanted to sketch out something, you're free to get somebody to help.
Also, could we get the maps before 2 weeks from now? Can you send them out to us?
We could.
Okay. Because I think that's a great idea, John, because then that allows us, while we're flushing out, having a community center and an event space in the same place, while we're thinking about it as part of our homework, if we're saying a community center will be on 2 acres and the event space will be on 1 acre, and then we can kind of look at the acreage and where everything is going to go, and then when we come back, we can flesh out all of those details and put them on like a sketch. So I think that would be
Next meeting is the 24th.
okay.
So
Because
that's-
restrooms
Is
are
it
going
also
to be really
possible-
important.
Is it also possible to do this old school and maybe get some flip charts for next time? That we could,
What was that?
Flip
I
chart.
said, can we do it
Flip
old
charts.
school and get some flip charts? So as we're throwing out our ideas and we're trying to combine ideas and come to consensus.
Yeah.
I'm a real visual person. I like to see
I do,
the
too.
things written down.
I guess my point of clarification for coming back is, community center versus event space. I guess community center is not necessarily have anything to do with a building. Is that absent of a building?
No.
It can be, and I think that's what we're having to kind
Right.
of flush out. Because
Right.
in my mind, and this is just me, and like I said, we can flesh this out next week, or our next meeting. I'm thinking a community center and then an event space. Because you could have an event space where you have something, let's say somebody, like an organization, let's say Santee Cooper wants to have an event at the event space. We don't want to change or
Okay.
alter what's going on in the community center. Like if the kids are having a performance or something, or if the kids have something up on display, or if they're
Yeah.
doing visual arts and it's displayed in the community center,
Yeah.
we don't want to have to move that just so that Santee Cooper can have an event.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's
And I want to make clear, I just roughly draw that two rectangles, one within the other. Well, inside would be 300 to 500 space sit-in or for performance, bands or weddings,
right.
and then rooms all the way around, kitchens and fine arts around in different round outsides.
That's what my drawing would look like.
you know. So I mean,
And just, because we also said a performing arts amphitheater as well, whether it's
Yeah.
indoor or outdoor. So
Right.
that could be as a part of the community center. So that it just depends. It just depends on how we decide to flesh it out. Because we could
Right.
have a community center with an outdoor amphitheater, and that can take up 4 acres.
Yeah.
And then we could have an event center that takes up 1 acre. We don't, you know what I
Right.
mean? So it's just how we decide to
Yeah.
think about it, process it, visualize it, whether or not we need to go and actually look at the site and say, okay, how would this fit here, blah, blah, blah. And then when we come back, we can actually say, this is what I was visualizing. This is what I was.
Would it be your thought that the amphitheater have a roof over it?
That's a thought process. I can think through it.
I do have a question. We kind of talked about an amphitheater maybe at the river. How big a seating was that gonna be? I mean, I just don't want to recreate the
Yeah.
wheel since we've already discussed it. Do we have anything that we can input from what the city's already done?
Well, we talked about, we hired a consultant on that, and we talked about different ideas. An amphitheater can be a lot of things. The result of that study is the terrace, which is an amphitheater.
And I know we're looking for bigger than that. Kind of, was anything brought up in that study for something 300 to 500? Did we go that big?
We went all the way up to several thousand.
Could that be put in a drop box so we could draw, like, I can get a 50 by 50 community center. I know that's half an acre, but something that large, I'm not real sure.
Something once we got up into several hundreds, they found that not feasible.
Okay.
And that's the amphitheater.
yeah.
You know, that was based on having to program it. If you're talking about just a place for school bands to perform, that's one thing. If you're talking about getting artists there were some challenges to that. One of them being that Horry County has a concert venue that's owned by Live Nation, and they black out every other band. They would not let a band perform in Conway.
Oh, wow.
So
Where is that?
some of that is the House of Blues. So it's multifaceted, but I can try to find a copy.
Yeah,
We
just
can put
kind of,
that
yeah,
forward.
something.
It
I
was-
just knew that we had spent some money, so why would we want to
Yeah.
maybe recreate something that we already had at least a little bit of knowledge about?
yeah.
And to your point
Glad you
though,
brought that up, 'cause we-
my concern would be in this neighborhood, amphitheater with the noise. I don't think that would work in that neighborhood, so I think that's a no-go to me.
Forever.
Yeah.
For them. Yeah, and yet again, that's just
Yeah.
how we,
Okay. Right,
flushing through it.
right. Okay.
Also would add to that the preliminary plans for Chestnut, they have an amphitheater.
Oh, okay, yeah. So there's amphitheaters coming. Let's move to item 8, the scheduling of the next meeting. We said it was January 24th
Yes.
at 5 p.m.
And can we say 5:15 just to,
Yeah, because it's killing me.
yeah.
Yeah, let's do that, because,
For traffic, is that be an issue?
Well, that will free up some parking spaces.
and then it would help me get there.
Can we also take a look at the next month or so too, because it helps me with being able to schedule and plan in advance,
Okay.
rather than meeting to meeting, we're deciding when the next meeting is going to be.
So,
We had proposed the second and fourth Wednesday of each month.
okay.
But
Is that still something
So,
that?
but for February, it starts on a Thursday. So in order to meet that deadline, could we do?
The 7th and 21st?
Okay.
7th of February,
7th and the 21st.
23rd, all right?
In March.
In February.
I don't know if we go to March.
He's already ahead.
Oh, he said, and March, okay.
The 13th and 27th.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. And then, because then by the time the March meetings are
Yeah.
said, we would have already had
Yes.
a budget retreat, and we'll have a
Yeah.
little bit more direction, so it'll be a
Right.
little.
And we can go about, into March, we can go ahead and begin the combined properties, Whittemore Elementary and Whittemore Park Middle School,
Right, I'm hoping by then,
hopefully.
yeah. It just depends on what we discuss in the budget retreat, we might have
There
to
you
make
go.
some adjustments, but
Okay,
for the most part,
gives us a little bit of wiggle room.
yeah.
Okay.
So we have the meeting dates, then item 9 is consideration of agenda for next meeting. I know one of the things is that we're gonna discuss in depth the top 4. And then also we will have a map, city staff will provide a map so that we can kind of draw a sketch on everything that we believe will be included, as we flush everything out.
Can I ask that we try, since if now we're only gonna have 45 minutes, that we streamline our agenda as much as possible and,
Will that be
Yeah. We're
just
not-
45 minutes, or are we gonna go to 6:15 to keep the hour?
are we gonna be able to do that?
5:15 to 6:15?
Okay.
I
Okay.
think that would be
Okay,
best.
that would be
Okay.
helpful.
Okay.
I think there may be some things on our agenda that a formal board needs that this task force maybe doesn't need in terms of, I'm looking at public comments and just
And
kind of the way we
recap.
structure, we might,
Right.
I think we need more work time.
Yep.
Right, right.
I didn't know we were on this one now.
So this is what we're gonna have each meeting, is public comments? Is that the agreement, that's what we're gonna have from here?
I don't think we've had them on any other
We've
agendas.
got-
We just talked
I
about
think we
doing
can take
this.
that off.
If the
Okay.
public comes and,
They have
if you,
an opportunity.
didn't give them opportunity to give
At
some
this
feedback.
one, okay.
Right.
They may listen to us on the broadcast and then bring some
I mean,
ideas.
it will take
You
like
won't-
5 seconds, so it
Right.
doesn't matter.
Right.
But
For
she
the most
has
part, we
some-
moved pretty quickly tonight. The SWOT analysis was a little more than
Yeah.
10 minutes, but for the most part, I felt like we moved pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I didn't know we were limited to an hour.
I don't think we're limited, but I think that's kind of how things have flown, and folks having to leave early, or,
Yeah, gotcha.
and then at that time, we
If we
had
have
city
to stay
staff, which
15
was
minutes,
taking.
it's not that big a deal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like there's a little grace period.
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
grace.
So you're gonna call the order, approval of minutes, public comments. Do you need a recap?
I don't think we need to
Okay.
do that.
I would like to have a prayer because we have them in all the
Okay.
other public meetings.
Okay. No SWAT next time?
No, we don't need a SWOT. We're going straight into the discussion
Go
of
back in
the,
discussion, we go all the way
top
down
four.
to number 7, right? We skip from 3 to 7, is that right? What you're looking at?
right, because then that discussion will be the top 4.
Right.
And us actually kind of like a workspace at that time.
That's correct.
Okay, and
More
then
input and discussion.
input and discussion, and then we go from there to agenda for the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay,
That's great.
that's good.
And the next chair is,
It's supposed to be Deborah, but if she's not,
You
Yep.
can do it in your last name, son.
so
You
after,
should have
after,
said it last
the-
week.
after Butler, next would be, Gore,
Healing.
Elaine Gore.
has anyone heard from her?
She
She hadn't been here the last
she did
3 times.
email. that
She
she
emailed
wasn't
and said she
gonna
would be here
today.
today, but it's been probably the past 3
Mhm.
consecutive meetings, so
Who are
I'm
y'all
not
looking
quite
for?
sure.
Elaine Gore,
Right,
From the senior.
senior.
so
Or can
if
it
Elaine
see-
So
Gore,
does that make you next, Beth?
if
So-
Elaine Gore can't,
Then that makes
and
Beth
Kay
next.
Hearn is next, and if Kay is still cruising, I'm not quite sure when she said they were gonna be back, then that means Helms, you on
I'm
deck.
deferring to my girl right there, she slammed right through it.
Helms, you're on deck.
I moved that we adjourn.
Can I do a second? It's been moved and adjourned. It's been moved and second that we adjourn our meeting. Any other follow-up questions or comments, concerns? If all in favor, can I see a show of hands?
Who's
See
second?
unanimous?
Who's second?
I heard a second. I don't know where it came from.
You can put me.
Okay,
I heard one though.
okay.
Yeah, that was me.
To clarify, I will make packages that include an 8.5 by 11 map with the dimensions of the property, tracing paper and a roller, and we'll let you know, hopefully early next week it will be available if you want to come back
pick
everything
up.
up.
Awesome sauce.
Great.
That is amazing.